All right, everybody, let's read some more in our book. I am recording this on May the 4th. You won't see it until the 5th, but May the 4th is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. So, couldn't resist a good pun. Um, had to get that plug in. Let's see, where were we? Book 10, Aelys and Cersei. Okay, now I will go ahead and confess. I got Calypso and Cersei confused at first. Calypso um, sort of held Odysseus on her island, but Cersei is the one who's some pretty serious bad news. So this should be interesting. Okay, and if you'll remember, he's just blinded Polyphemus. Nobody blinded me. Nobody's gonna pay for what they've done. Blah blah blah. And because Odysseus couldn't resist, he couldn't keep his mouth shut, couldn't just say zero words and just sail away quietly. They stole all of the sheep and goats that he had, and he's calling back to him as the ship is sailing away and actually tells him his name, which is when Polyphemus says that prays to Poseidon and asks that Poseidon um, never reach home, or if he does reach home, only have him come after long suffering, all of his comrades dead, let him find trouble waiting at home, that kind of stuff. So it's like a really just, it's like, I don't ever want him to make it home. And even if he does make it home, make sure he suffers on the way and everyone around him is dead. And I mean, he's just mean. But to be fair, he was blinded. So it's not like he's mad for no reason. Okay. So, Book 10, Aelys and Cersei. The next land we sighted on our journey was strange in every way. It was a floating island, walled all around with solid bronze. Okay, so you can see it's not a normal island. It's got these high walls of metal. So clearly somebody has built this top part of the island. Oh, this is book 10, by the way. This, we discovered, was Aeolia, the home of King Aeolus, whom the gods had made lord of the winds. He had 12 perfect sons and daughters, whom he had married to each other. Ew. And they lived at ease within their bronze palace, feasting all day long. Aeolus welcomed me to their feast, and when I departed, he gave me a godly gift. So again, he's welcomed, they're eating. These guys like to throw parties. Okay, so then he's about to describe the gift that he was given. He captured the winds and bound them up in a great bag made from the hide of a full grown ox. So like an entire full grown ox's skin. So sizable, like a very large bag. Sealing the neck tight with wire so nothing could escape. But he left the west wind free to blow us straight on our course for home. So at this point, they believed that there were four winds, north, south, east, and west. And basically, the west wind was what they needed to get home. They were headed west. And so the west wind was going to blow them towards their home. And so he bagged up in this cowhide bag, he bagged up the other three winds, supposedly. I stayed up for 9 days without a rest, manning the helm myself, for I was determined that nothing would stop me reaching home now. We sighted land, Ithaca. I thought my troubles were over, and I left the helm to sit and rest my legs. But sleep overcame me, and as soon as my eyes were closed, mischief erupted among my crew. They took it into their heads that the bag Aeolus gave me must contain gold and riches, which I planned to keep all for myself. The fools, mad with jealousy, they decide to open the bag and see. So here they have here, um, he's manning the ship all by himself. He's got the bag right there so that he can be in control of the wind. He can use the west wind to get home. But then as soon as he sits down and kind of passes out, he's even got his arm on the bag still. They're like, no, this has to be full of gold. So we need to, get our piece of that. I awoke to a nightmare, Odysseus says. The winds unleashed, battered our ship, and blew us wailing back from our homes, all the way back across the sea to Aeolia. So they had made all of that progress. Home was in sight, and now they're back at the floating island. And he said he was super sad. He said, in my grief, I thought that I would have been better off drowned rather than suffer such tragedy. So he's saying, I wish like the ship had just sunk instead of getting so close to home and going on. So this is telling you how badly he feels. But my spirit held me, made me cling to the rail and endure it all. So he's saying, he had courage, even though at first he was like, this is like the worst thing that could have happened. Okay, so here he is back in Aeolia. What, Odysseus, back again? How can this be? I sent you on your way with all you needed to reach your home. Sir, my crew betrayed me. They opened the bag and released the winds. I beg you, great king, save me again. You have the power to do it easily. Pitiful man, the king says. The gods must truly despise you, and I will not go against their will. Leave my hall and never return. So everybody sort of picks up as he's going along the way. Everybody sort of picks up on the fact that he must have done something to upset the gods, and that's why he's having this terrible luck. So they're like, well, I'm not helping you if you're not, like, supposed to make it home. Like, if the gods are against you, I'm not going to get them against me, too. All right. So we sailed on, cursing our fate. 6 days we rowed, as in, like, rowed the boat, no wind. And on the 7th day, we came to a shore of tall cliffs encircling a fine, calm, natural harbor. My captains all sailed in, but some instinct warned me to moor my ship outside the cliffs, tying her fast to the rocks. Okay, so basically, they finally see a place where they can kind of put ashore, but he's feeling sort of nervous about it. So he stays out here and anchors his boat to the rocks, and everybody else just sails right in. But he's like, been through a couple of traps already at this point. I don't think I want to do that. I climbed to the top of the cliff and saw smoke rising in the distance. 2 of my men volunteered to go and see what manner of people lived there. They had not gone far when they met a great strapping young woman. Okay, so that means she was larger and muscular than, so like great meaning bigger, but strapping is like, muscular. She brought them to the hall of her parents, who were king and queen of these people, the Laestrygonians. So, again, they walk in. They find a person. She's like, oh, let me take you to the king and queen. But they were treated to a savage and beastly reception. I called my men to cast off and retreat, but it was too late. So, he's still watching. I don't know if I showed you this. That's his boat. He climbs up to the top. So he's watching. This is the great strapping young woman here. And so he's watching out here as all the rest of his ships have gone in, right? Well, when they're taken in to the king and queen, you see the scream and it ends in like a bloody mark. Okay, so then people are running here and he's telling them to turn back. They're like surprised. They're freaking out. And then look at the heads on these guys. They look like they're part like ram. That's terrible. And they're throwing rocks down and they're attacking the boats. And hitting the boats, which obviously puts a hole in them, makes them sink, stuff like that. They're really like in a trap because they sailed all the way in. And they're kind of, there's only that one narrow passageway for them to escape through. So they're in a bad spot. So, um, uh, so all of these guys are getting attacked. And then Odysseus, just as quick as he can, um, gets all the way down to his ship. They just cut the line and they just get away as fast as they can. Only my ship escaped. The rest were smashed, and the Laestrygonians speared my helpless men from the water like fish. Ew. Ugh. I've never been spear fishing, but oops, sorry, I hit my desk. But I don't think that's the way I'd want to go. Like if I had a choice, I don't think that's the way I want to go. So we sailed on, mourning our comrades, and we came to another island where we moored our ship and took on water. We were all afraid to explore, obviously, after our experiences with the Cyclops and the Lystrygonians. However, our food supply was getting low, so I strapped on my sword, took hold of my bronze spear, and ignoring my crew's protestations, I set off to find some game. So, the crew was like, no, dude, like, look at what all we've been through already. And he's like, but my guys, we have to find some food. So he takes his gear and he goes anyway. So he sets off. He's walking into the woods. He's looking. And as he gets to this stream, he sees a deer, right? So then he says, friends, look, let's put away our hunger. He manages to kill the deer and bring it back. When I told the men that the island looked inhabited, and the basis for that is he sees a fire coming from over here. So he's like, somebody does live here. So when I told the men that the island looked inhabited, they groaned, understandably. But I quickly divided them into two bands, one led by myself, the other by my captain, Eurylochus. I'm really trying here. We cast lots from a helmet, and Eurylochus's lot came first. So he and his band set off grimly to see who might live here. So Eurylochus at this point is like, dude, we've already been through the Cyclops and the Laestrygonians, and everywhere we turn, there's a trap, and people stop helping us because they realize we're cursed. And what am I being sent into now? At the center of the island, they found a great house with a garden prowled by wild animals who acted as meek as house pets. Okay, so here we have, and this looks kind of like one of our houses, like we would live in. And let's see, we've got like a grizzly and a couple of lions and some wolves and another bear, and they're just chilling. Just hanging out. So that's a little suspicious. They heard a beautiful voice singing within. Drawn by her song, my men went to the door and hailed her, and she came out at once to greet them, the bewitching queen Circe. Only Eurylochus held back, sensing a trap. So Eurylochus is like, great, this is the part where things go sideways. We've done this already a couple of times before. So he's like, no, I'm not running headfirst into this one. Circe mixed the men bowls of a sweet concoction made of cheese, barley, golden honey, and Pramnian wine. And into this she also stirred a magic drug. Trap. Okay. And so She welcomes them in, she mixes them food, and as soon as they eat it, now they start turning into pigs and other types of animals, pigs and boar. She's the one that did this, not Calypso. I got their names confused. So Eurylochus, he stayed outside. He's peeking through the window. He's like, oh no. So Eurylochus returned, raving about the men being transformed. His story was hard to believe, but it made me burn with curiosity. Though the men wanted to put to sea at once and escape, I made up my mind to see what had happened to my comrades and rescue them if I could. Odysseus doesn't seem to be learning really quickly. Like, he's trying to do the brave thing, but he keeps leading his men into traps. So, again, he gets his spear and everything. He goes into the woods, and then, well, great Odysseus, looking for trouble again. I'm pretty sure that this is Hermes because he's holding the caduceus, and Hermes was the one who came and spoke to him. Came to spoke to Calypso, came and spoke to Calypso on his behalf. So I'm pretty sure this is Hermes that he's talking to. Let me give you some friendly advice then. This island belongs to Circe, a powerful immortal. She has enslaved your men by magic. If you would seek her out, then take this herb with you. Chew it up and swallow it, and it will protect you from her spells. So he hands him this stuff that he digs it up and hands it to Odysseus to protect him. When her magic fails, she will try to make you fall in love with her. Okay, so the first thing she's going to do is she's going to try and do the spell. Then she's going to start being like, oh, but I'm so beautiful and blah, blah, like kind of like Calypso did. Threaten her with your sword. Make her swear never to harm you and to release your men. Then, as long as she's made this promise, then you can stay here safely and enjoy the magical delights of the island for as long as you want to. As long as she's made that promise. I don't know. I think I'd rather just leave. Like, get my men and go. I don't know that I would want to stay. But, okay. So, Odysseus right here, he's got the little herbs in his hand. There goes Hermes flying off. And he's just like, okay. I found all as Eurylochus had described it. And so he sees the house, he sees the animals that are supposed to be wild animals, not acting like wild animals. He goes in, he sees Circe, she tries the thing with the drug and the food. She's doing the whole thing. Now, into the pens with your comrades, you swine. And she has a staff that she's kind of like, whap. You know, she kind of was like expecting him to start changing any minute now. So she kind of whacks him like, you're about to be a pig. So get in the pen with the other pigs. Except for this is where he draws his sword. And she's like, what? Just as Hermes said, she tried to make me fall in love with her, but I made her swear by all the gods not to harm me and to release my men. And so he goes outside with her, and like it's kind of a drawing of like a little like scrolly fence, and as they're coming out, they're turning back into people as they're leaving the fence. So I brought up all the others who waited at the ship, and we were all bathed, given royal clothes, and fed the choicest delicacies by Circe's handmaidens all day long, day after day. Again, I would have left. She did just turn like half my men into pigs, but Odysseus is gonna Odysseus, so this is just how life is with him. So he was like, you know what? Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe we do stay here for a while. So we stayed, savoring all these pleasures, while elsewhere the seasons turned and a full year passed. Okay, so it's not, um, it's not, the seasons aren't changing. They don't have like a winter or anything. It's always nice weather on Cersei's Island. So they stay there for a year, before they even really fully realize it. Then some of my men urged me to resume the voyage home, and I knew that they were right. Circe, I must not stay here any longer. Radiant goddess, give us provisions for the journey and tell me how to set my course. I will not hold you back, but if you wish to reach your home safely, you must have the advice of the great seer Tiresias. And remember, I brought him up in some of the plays. He's like a recurring character in these stories. Different authors wrote about Tiresias, and so the problem here is Odysseus says, Tiresias is long dead and buried. So how am I supposed to ask advice from a dead guy? And Circe says, yes, you must journey to Erebus, the land of the dead, to consult him. Piece of cake. It's fine. Odysseus starts freaking out a little bit at this point. No ship can sail to the land of the dead, nor can living men return from that shore. Hey, Google. Dismiss. Do not fear, she says. Remember, I have sworn an eternal oath to you. It is neither so far nor so hard as you think, and I will tell you how to make the journey. Go now and gather up your men. I will provision the ship for you. I roused my companions, like I woke them up, and when they wept and wailed when I told them we must visit the land of the dead. So they were like, we want to go home. And he was like, LOL, JK, we're going to the underworld. And they were like, no. Okay, so this was not the news they wanted to hear. But I hustled them down to the ship and put them to work so their tears were stilled. For what good can come of grieving? Odysseus. He's so problematic, isn't he? All right, so book 11. Now we've changed colors again. See the gray here? So book 11 is just called The Land of the Dead. Just spread your sail, Circe told me, and the north wind will carry you directly to the Black Shore. Beach your ship and go inland, looking for the lake where the River of Fire and the River of Tears meet. Very casual directions. River of Fire, River of Tears. We got this. Dig a trench there on the shore, of 4 arms length on each side, and sacrifice a black lamb and a young goat. Okay. The spirits of the dead will soon appear, drawn by the smell of blood. Have your men quickly burn the carcasses and sacrifice to the 12 gods, now the 12 being the main Olympians. Remember, they were the ones that were the main big deal. Even though there were a whole lot more, they were the Olympians. While you draw your sword and stand over the trench, and that's where the sacrifices are burning. You may see spirits you know, but let none touch the blood until Tiresias appears. Question him about your journey, and he will tell you everything. So it kind of shows the pictures of them doing all of this, of them preparing the sacrifice, digging the trenches, and all of that sort of stuff. And then as soon as they've done this, here come the ghosties and the dead folk. All right? So he's standing, he's protecting the trench that they removed the blood from the animals, and they put it in a trench, and then they are burning them in the other trench, I think, is how this is going. So he's guarding the blood. He's like, you don't get this unless you are the person I'm looking for and you answer my questions, basically. Elpenor, how did you get here? You were with us yesterday. So this is one of his men. Like the first person that he recognizes out of the the dead that are approaching is one of his own men. Captain, it was my ill luck that brought me here more swiftly than your black ship. I had drunk too much and gone to sleep on Circe's roof in the fresh night air. I was roused by the sounds of the men marching out to the ship, but in my confusion, I missed the ladder and fell headlong, snapping my neck. Ouch. Captain, I know you must go back that way again, and I pray you, by the love you bear me and the long years we served together, burn my body, raise a monument of stones for me, and plant atop it the long oar I pulled in life. So basically, he's saying, I fell off the roof, and that's where I died, and I'm still laying there. So when you go back by Circe's island, will you give me a proper funeral? I mean, that seems like a reasonable request. I promised him, and his spirit faded back into the darkness. But then came another shade I knew too well. Anticlea. Anticlea? I don't know. My own beloved mother, who had still lived when I sailed for Troy. The sight broke my heart, but I kept my sword out, and she held back from it until finally I saw the man I sought, Tiresias. Then he lets Tiresias get some of the blood out of the trench, so that they can talk. So, great Odysseus, you come to me for prophecy and advice. You want to know how you can return home to your beloved island of Ithaca. Yes, great sage, he says. Tell me what you see. How can I complete the journey? Okay. You can only reach your home by disciplining yourself and your men. Heed my words. You must not touch the cattle of Helios, the sun god, who sees all. If you leave those sacred beasts unharmed, your ship and all your crew will reach Ithaca safely. But if you allow your men to kill any of Helios's cattle, then your ship and crew will be destroyed, and you will suffer more long years at sea. You'll return at last, but under a strange sail, unrecognized at home, and your palace overrun by enemies, suitors who seek to eat up your flocks and claim your wife. Gonna take a guess. Gonna say somebody kills one of the cows, or more than one of the cows, because that's exactly what happens. Is they, he's gone so long, and he comes back, and there's a bunch of suitors trying to get his wife. So, all right. Okay, so talking about once he gets home and the suitors, the would-be boyfriends. Once you have killed these men, whether in open combat or by stealth, and put your house in order, you must take your oar with you and travel inland until you reach a country where men know nothing of ships or the sea. You will know you've reached the place when a stranger asks you what is on your shoulder and thinks it a flail or some tool for threshing grain. There you must plant your oar and make a rich sacrifice to Lord Poseidon, a ram, a bull, and a breeding boar, so 3 very large animals, asking his forgiveness for putting out the eye of his son Polyphemus. Then return home and make rich sacrifices to all the gods in turn. If you do this, then death will come upon you peacefully in old age with your loved ones around you. Okay, this is just a really cool image, so I want to show you. This is the cow, and then the skeleton of the cow showing that, like, if you kill the cow, like, the ship gets destroyed. And then this is him carrying the oar, and he's supposed to carry it so far inland that people are like, what's an oar? I don't even know what a boat is. Like, he's supposed to go that far away from the sea that people are completely unfamiliar. Okay, so this is not great news, because he's like, don't do anything to Helios's cattle, because he'll get really, really mad. Um, uh, if you can get by without, I'm sorry, I keep shaking the desk. If you can get by, without incident, get by the cattle without incident, then you'll make it straight home. But if you can't, which, spoiler alert, we know that they probably didn't, um, you'll have more years at sea. You come home under a strange sail, which normally would have like an emblem on it, kind of identifying where you're from or who you're with or blah blah blah. Um, so more years at sea. You're coming home unrecognized under a strange sail. You're going to find your palace is full of people who are eating your food and trying to marry your wife. And so then, once you deal with that, then you have to go sacrifice to Poseidon and ask his forgiveness. And then you have to do the same thing for all of the other gods in turn. And only then, having done all of these things, will you manage to live to a ripe old age and die naturally and peacefully. So it's really not, it's really not great news. It's like a whole long plan. So Odysseus says, "Your words mix the bitter and the sweet, but tell me this too. I think I see my mother there, shadowy and insubstantial. Is she really among the dead? Or do my eyes play tricks in this place? Can I speak with her?" "Yes, she is dead. It is simple enough to speak to any spirit here. Just allow them to taste the blood and they will converse with you." Okay, so that's what the blood does. If he lets one get close, then and to drink some of the blood from the sacrifices, then they can talk to him. So he lets her, and he says, "Oh, mother, my son, are you still at sea? Have you not set foot on your native Ithaca or comforted your wife?" "No. Is she well, mother? Is my son well? And what of my father, your husband, Laertes?" "Your son is well," she's telling him, "stout and strong of limb and mind. Your wife pines for you, soaking the floors with salt tears. So does your father. He has exiled himself to the hills where he sleeps with the shepherds." "And you, mother, how did you—" "I too pined away, waiting for your return, until in my grief I took my own life." Oof, that is not what you want to hear from your mom. "My mother's shade faded away, and through my tears I saw a crowd of famous ladies approach. Again, he's still got the pool of blood that he's standing right by. I let them taste the blood one by one and asked them who they were. Alcmene, mother of the mighty Heracles, or Hercules. Epicaste, who unwittingly, Jocasta, who unwittingly married her son Oedipus. Remember I talked about that yesterday? Weird. Okay. Iphimedea, I don't know if I'm getting that one right at all, who bore the twin giants Otis and Ephialtes, so strong they challenged the gods of Olympus, and 1,000 others. Excuse me. To name them would take the whole night and more. But come, Alcinous, great king, you must all be weary of my long tale by now. Okay, so now we're back in the present. He's still sitting like this is the line of women. So now he's still talking to the king, and he's like, "Come on, you've got to be done with this by now. I've told you so much stuff." "Odysseus, my friend, look around you," the king says, King Alcinous. "You hold us spellbound. It's not yet midnight, and we all want to hear the rest. Go on, sleep will wait. Tell me, did you see the ghosts of any heroes, your famous comrades at Troy?" "I did," Odysseus says. First of them to approach was the High King Agamemnon. He related the story, so familiar now to all the world, of the treachery his wife had planned for him when he returned to Mycenae. His good advice to me, and especially considering what happened to him, he told Odysseus, "Don't let anyone know you're home until you have ascertained the state of affairs." meaning just in case somebody is laying in wait to kill you like they were me at my welcome feast, don't let anybody know you're home just immediately. Wait a little bit, kind of figure out where things are, and then tell people you're home. Then came the greatest Achaean hero of all, Achilles. Oh, great Achilles, how fortunate you are! Godlike in life, and even among ghosts you stand lord over all. Achilles is not, you know, super impressed by this, by the look on his face. He says, "Flattering words as always, Odysseus, but spare me your praise of death. You don't know what it's like on this side. I'd rather be plowing a furrow or the lowest servant in some peasant king's employ than a lord among these empty souls." So, like, plowing a furrow is like where you make the trench in the earth that you plant seeds in. So it's hard labor. So he's literally like, I would rather be doing hard labor on a farm, or the lowest servant, the person who, cleans the floors and the chamber pots, the toilets. I would rather be anything else than lord amongst all these empty souls here. But since you are still among the living, tell me of my son, Achilles' son. Did he prove himself in the war, uphold the line of Peleus? Never fear, prince, he says. Young Neoptolemus joined us at Troy and proved himself both in council and in battle. When we waited in the wooden horse, the Trojan horse, told you that story, he alone moved not a muscle, never grew pale, or showed the whites of his eyes, but gripped his spear and silently implored me to open the door and command the attack. And after we had sacked the city, he sailed away with the Myrmidons, his body unmarked by a single scar. Now I saw past the gathering of dead men and into the depths of Hades. I saw King Minos sitting in judgment over the damned. I saw the great hunter Orion and the torments of Tityos, Sisyphus, and Tantalus. I saw the mighty Hercules towering over it all. It must have been a vision, for his soul feasts with the gods on Olympus. So he's seeing the people who have eternal punishment. Let's see, 1 second. I believe Sisyphus's punishment. Let's see. Okay. So Sisyphus, he died twice, but both times he made sure that he had some sort of out to where he could escape from the underworld. And obviously this is not making people happy, especially because it was Zeus that wanted him dead, as per usual. Zeus is pretty, ragey. So now Zeus was determined that there should be no third escape. Sisyphus was taken again to Tartarus under strong guard, and his impiety was blazoned forth for all to know. So impiety meaning like disrespect to the gods. And everybody knew what he'd been doing, and how he'd been trying to escape and kind of game the system. Once in Tartarus, he was condemned to a unique punishment: to roll a huge rock up a hill. Just as the summit is reached, the rock rolls back and he must resume his task at the bottom of the hill. He was sentenced to roll this stone up the hill through eternity. So, his entire afterlife was spent rolling a boulder up a hill, but he never could quite make it to the top because every time he did, the boulder would get away and roll to the bottom, and he'd have to try again. Now Tantalus. Okay, so Tantalus, basically, he was a son of Zeus, and he made sure that every single thing he did made Zeus angry. Like, he purposefully went out of his way um to make Zeus angry. So even though being a son of Zeus, like, he could be admitted to where the gods, would live, then he stole from them. He stole their nectar and ambrosia, which is not food it's food for the gods. It's not food for mortal consumption. Um then he would go around telling people, like, oh, I heard the god said this and that, at the dining table at Olympus, but he had made it all up. And I mean, like, he kept, like, escalating and doing worse and worse things. And then finally, Zeus couldn't handle it anymore because his acts had become criminal, as they, like, it had gone from just like thievery and lies, and eventually he killed somebody. And so Zeus brought that person back and was like, no, Tantalus, you're actually going to be dead, and this is your punishment, is that I am going to place you in Tartarus, in this pool of crystal clear water with these apple trees and everything. It's going to be so. Yeah, he was made to stand at a stream of crystal water under apple trees whose boughs, laden with delicious fruit, bent invitingly toward him. But anytime he would try to reach for an apple, the tree would move away. Anytime he tried to lean down and get some water into his mouth, the water would literally move away from him. Okay? So, one more to look up. Okay. This guy, actually, unfortunately, um, he was sent to hunt somebody that Hera didn't like, but that guy's kids, Apollo and Artemis, so god of the day, god of the night, or goddess of the night, persuaded their uncle Hades to kill him and put him on a rock where vultures would swoop down and eat his insides, and then he would heal up, and then vultures would come back and they'd eat his insides again. So, needless to say, this is not a place you want to be. This is why Achilles is like, look, I would rather be doing anything else than being the Lord down here. And he starts looking, and they've got Sisyphus pushing the rock back up, and this guy's, his insides are being eaten, and then this is him in the pool with the trees, that he can't eat or drink any of it. It's moving away from him. So, so he sees all the dead people, and he starts seeing the punishments, and he's like, ugh. I wish to see still farther, to meet Theseus and other heroes of ancient days, but the gathered spirits began a shrill keening, which is like not like a shriek, like a ah, but like a keening, like a like almost like a wailing noise, keening. Um, think about when a dog howls or like whimpers, and that noise kind of comes out through their nose. It's that kind of noise. Um, so they're standing there. He's thinking, okay, I'm starting to see the punishments. This is not great, but maybe if I hang out a little longer, I could see some of the other heroes. That would be cool to get to talk to them. Um, but then everybody that was gathering around, they start making that noise, and it said pressed in from all sides. So they're starting like to surround them and like close in. And he's like, and sudden terror seized me. Obviously, I called to my men, and we broke and fled for the ship. So his spidey sense went off, and he was like, oh no, another trap. So yeah, they had to run out of the underworld. All right, so that was book 10 and 11. And I'm going to move the bookmark. We will read more. So we're almost halfway because we're on book 12. Oh, hey, look, there's my cat. He's very hard to see. His name is Sean. Hey, Sean. Can you see? He's got a big gray beard. He's a very old man. He's 16. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, though, so my question for this section of reading is, what color was the Star Wars logo on my shirt? Answer the question, get a bonus star. You know the drill. See y'all later.